Today's patch is actually a major overhaul of several systems in-game, and I can't wait to talk about them with you. Let's not waste any time. It's important we touch on the changes to Prism and Boss Rush XP first. The biggest complaints have been how grindy it is to actually level a Prism, and Gunfire heard you loud and clear. The base experience needed to go from 0 to 50 has been cut in half, and the XP needed to go from 51 to 50 has been reduced to its former value so you can reroll more frequently. You will also be better compensated if you die during a boss rush, as individual boss XP values are being massively increased. They were previously 1,000, but now they'll be 3,000, 4,500, and 5,000 for 3, 7, and 19 bosses respectively. Basically, if you fail on the final boss, you get pretty much all the XP you would have gotten if you won previously in the prior patch. Now, with XP bonuses, you can get up to 4 to 20,000 XP for completing a gauntlet, which is more than half of what you need to level up an entire Prism. As someone who can't play all the time and often manages to fail in the late half of gauntlets, I am so pumped to finally start efficiently leveling up my Prisms. I think I speak for everyone when I say, thank you Gunfire, this is an incredible change. It's also important to note that they fixed the issue where you couldn't properly cleanse the Prism. We'll go over the legendary changes later in the video. For performance and crashes, they now support FSR 3.1.1 as well as DLSS 3.7.20. For Archetypes, they fixed an issue where Engineer and Warden summons were incorrectly applying pressure, causing the turret and drone to take turns attacking. They also fixed an issue where Impact Cannon and Hellfire were also incorrectly applying pressure. For Invoker, they fixed an issue where casting a skill sequentially caused Communion to stop working, which is its team perk. For Medic, they fixed an issue where Medic Redemption skill glow was not turning off and could visually stack. There are some major mod changes to talk about, so let's start with those before the weapons. First, they fixed an issue where Big Bang's mod DOT was scaling 10x with a particular legendary prism. They also fixed an issue where healing effectiveness did not benefit Red Doe's Staff Lifeline mod and the Spirit Healer Mutator. For Void Light, they fixed several issues. It should work in all boss fights now. It should function as described, and they also fixed a bug where it was allowing multiple explosion triggers to occur. Guess it's finally time to give it a shot. Astro Burst will not only have 3 charges instead of 2, but it's getting its damage doubled from 35 to 70. Much needed for a mod that never sees any play, to be honest. It also has a few other minor changes, like straying away from the bouncing gimmick and slightly increasing the weak spot damage bonus it receives. The Prismatic Driver mod has been another mod that sucks big balls, but now it will be making the enemies suck big balls, because the beam damage is quintupling from 25 to 125. Its explosive damage is also doubling from 150 to 300. With other minor changes to make it more efficient, this is one to keep your eye on, as it could prove to be deadly. Rotted Arrow is getting a notable damage and weak spot bonus increase, and it's more than doubling in its AoE size for the explosion. This will pair perfectly with Skewer in a mod spam build, since Skewer is receiving another insane damage increase. Its trap mechanic is also more than doubling in damage, so both of these changes look bonkers, there's not much else to say. If you pair increased AoE size with Voltaic Runger, you're gonna have a good time, because its base size is going from 3 meters to 6 meters. Its damage is also getting a major buff, so have fun not seeing anything, because it's gonna be ridiculous. Concussive Shot is receiving the explosive damage tag, so while not much has changed, it can synergize more with explosive builds and slot in easier. I already thought Witchfire was plenty powerful, but Gunfire decided fuck it and tripled its fireline damage. They also doubled its duration. Wow. The Cube Gun mod is receiving a major damage buff while also having its mod cost cut in half. Along with that, the Cube speed will be slowed down and allow for more damage ticks on enemies. Now we can finally have the Cube's affix and get revenge on the enemies. The final 2 changes involve Familiar and Night Guard. Familiar gets an increased duration and reduced mod cost, which is nice, but nothing like the Night Guard change. Night Guard has been a notable steaming pile of dog shit due to its lack of damage, but now it gets an increase from 15 to a whopping 65. Its duration increases from 20 to 30 seconds as well. Although the cost increases from 450 mod power to 1000, it doesn't matter because, well, holy fuck, it's finally viable. This change slaps. We can run through the legendary Prism changes as well, and some are pretty awesome. Altruistic will now increase lifesteal shared from 30 to 50%, making this a much more viable option for a support character. Critical Situation will now grant 35% critical chance for lightweight instead of 25%, making for a much more tantalizing option. For Impervious, instead of reducing 20% of the damage, you're now going to receive 30% reduced damage. That's just bonkers. Jack of all trades is going to receive a minor nerf from 45 to 40% all damage to bring it more in line with other damage options. Master Killer is seeing an improved weak spot multiplier from 1.25x to 1.35x. Given the right build and aim, it's going to outperform the other damage options. Sadistic is actually good now for status builds, going from a 25% chance to deal 1.5x damage to a 50% chance to deal 2x damage. That's fucking nuts. Sharpshooter is being brought in line quite like Jack of all trades, going from a 75% range bonus to a 60% range bonus. Still really good if you ask me. Spectrum, in all of its confusion, increases its red and yellow bonuses from 3 to 5%, with red meaning all damage and yellow meaning movement speed. For instance, with all red fragments, you can have a 45% all damage bonus, quite like the previous Jack of all trades. Finally, steel plating is increasing armor by 150 instead of 100, which equates to a base armor DR value of 42.9%. Wild. Speed Demon will now properly apply maximum speed bonuses, and Unbridled will now work with Engineer's high-tech prime perk. Over 25 weapons see changes in this patch, and the majority are minor quality of life improvements. That might include slight improvements to damage, range, recoil, accuracy, stagger ability, reserve ammo, clip size, fire rate, and/or reload speed. These weapons will be listed on screen to save time. Although these are going to be considered major changes for some people who use these weapons, I'm going to go more in depth with the ones that I feel are more notable. Feel free to screenshot these two parts, or pause the video to take a peek. The Bonesaw LMG can now fire 75 rounds before overheating, and if you feather it, you won't ever overheat. Overheating also recovers quicker. It also sees a slight reload speed increase and fire rate increase. This is more tame than the next selection of weapons, but it was worth noting because I feel like Bonesaw was one of the more struggling weapons in the arsenal. The Bulldog Shotgun is going to be an absolutely nutty weapon now. It's receiving an increased fire rate from 2.5 to 3.5. You can go all in on fire rate and have an absolute machine in your hands. I am beyond excited to try this one out. The machine pistol is receiving a notable DPS increase, increasing its base damage from 8 to 9. They slightly reduced rounds per second from 16 to 15 for performance, but Ben Kierton says the damage increase more than makes up for it. The changes to recoil and accuracy should make this weapon a laser. The Widowmaker is receiving a massive buff, where it's not only receiving increased reload speed, but it's going to get a damage increase from 125 to 150. That is insane, and well deserved. This and the Sure Shot will also be more responsive after reloading, which should make for smoother gameplay. The Huntmaster is getting a complete rework, receiving a massive fire rate and reserves decrease for a massive damage buff, going from a base of 70 to 105. It's like a semi-automatic Widowmaker now. I don't even know what to say, it's going to be impossible to pick between the two. Fort Scattergun has some minor tweaks, but most notably its magazine size is going from 7 to 10. With the fire rate increase, this should be extremely efficient and fun to use in close quarters combat. Starkiller is seeing a whole lot of changes, increasing reload speed, accuracy, and dramatically increased moving accuracy. Not to mention, the mod damage is more than doubling, and its AoE is also doubling. I mean, I'm at a loss of words for this one. People are going to be rushing to create the most destructive mod build with this weapon, and I'm happy to see its return to its former glory. Here's another change I can't believe, but Sporebloom's seeing another massive damage buff, going from a base of 200 to 250. It's also reducing the max spread and reticle size. When optimized, Sporebloom was the best sniper in the game, and now you can work even less to achieve disgusting levels of terror for the enemy. This is fucking crazy. For Monolith, they're increasing the exposed duration from 1 second to 3 seconds per application. They're also increasing the sustained fire requirements for exposed from 0.25 seconds to 0.65 seconds. I hope you're ready to stop auto-equipping this thing, because the mod no longer applies exposed. The devs do note that it made the primary fire irrelevant, which is true, so they removed it from the mod and made the primary fire more efficient in ramping exposed. A lot of people are going to hate this one, that's for sure, but Monolith and Nebula have had their time in the limelight, huh? Speaking of Nebula, it's also being nerfed. The DOT duration is lowering from 15 seconds to 10 seconds, while the damage remains the same. They're also reducing the mod's base damage, total duration, base DOT damage, DOT duration, and cost. The devs note that, quite like Sandstorm, the mod was outclassing the benefit of the primary fire in every way. As an applicator that grants 10% damage bonus, they wanted to tone down the strength of the cast and forget Swarm. It should deal more damage per second due to the reduced duration, and the primary fire damage over time remains damaging and damages more quickly. I personally think that people should try out other combos that aren't just Monolith and Nebula, and considering how many buffs are coming our way, this is probably for the best. Try not to kill me in the comments. Hey, I already know what you're gonna say. Finally, the Anguish has a bit of a rework here. The reload speed and fire rate has increased pretty significantly, and its projectile speeds are much faster across the board. It sounds like they want you to use the primary fire more because the mod is actually getting nerfed. Its damage bonus is going from 100% to 50%, which makes sense considering how crazy it starts to pop off in the late stages of boss fights. To compensate, the projectile speed is increased, and the mod duration increases from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. For Boss Rush, they fixed an issue where clients would not be able to select a buff, and also fixed an issue where clients' results would show up as no stats or name. For UI, they fixed an issue where "You Are Dead" screen persisted. This happened after dying in a pitfall into the fog door entrance in the Harvester mini-boss encounter. They also fixed several spelling mistakes. For miscellaneous fixes, they fixed the issue where Spark was not rewarding the crafted items to all the players, so we no longer need to worry about that, which is awesome. They fixed an issue where Ancient Canopy Sandroom could become inaccessible. And finally, they fixed an issue where players could get stuck in a loop with Dwayne, waiting for him to finish the meat shake. I feel like this has been around for so long, so hopefully this is the final change that's needed. We haven't had a major overhaul like this since DLC 2, and I am so fucking excited to try out every single change that Gunfire has made. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments section down below. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all things Remnant, and let me know how you feel about this incredibly large patch. Thanks for watching.